All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Pi Network, a project that honestly zigged when the entire crypto world zagged. While everyone else was chasing hype and overnight riches, Pi was quietly building something very, very different. So let's break down what that strategy is and why it might just be perfectly timed for what's coming next. And this quote right here, it really sets the stage perfectly. For years, the crypto space has been all about noise, chaos, and disruption. But what if the real, lasting financial shift isn't loud at all? What if it's happening quietly, being built with actual structure? That's the big idea we're going to unpack today. You can really see the shift laid out here. On the left, that's the old way, the crypto Wild West. It was all about hype, chaos, and finding loopholes. But look to the right. That's the new reality that's taking shape. Structure, compliance, and crucially, identity. We're talking about a massive shift from total anonymity to real accountability. And make no mistake, this isn't some far-off prediction. It is happening right now. All around the world, but especially in places like the United States, policymakers are done asking if they should regulate digital assets. Now they're defining exactly how they're going to regulate them. And that, my friends, creates a whole new ballgame. So this really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? When the rules of the game change this dramatically, who is actually ready to play? I mean, which projects were built for a future they couldn't even see yet, and which ones are about to be left scrambling to catch up? And this is where Pi Network really enters the conversation, because its approach has always been the opposite of the mainstream. That slow, methodical, disciplined path, well, that wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate choice, a contrarian bet in an industry that's absolutely obsessed with speed. So here's the bottom line. From day one, Pi's philosophy was just fundamentally different. Instead of staring at price charts and gunning for quick exchange listings, it poured all its energy into building a massive global network of real, verified human beings. It was playing a completely different game from the start. And this is so important to understand. For Pi, compliance was never going to be an afterthought, something to bolt on later. It was built right into its DNA. The very features that some people saw as limitations were actually strategic safeguards, designed for the exact regulatory future that is now knocking on the door. Okay, so let's get into the specifics. First, identity verification, or KYC. It was mandatory. This makes sure every single person is a real, unique human, something regulators absolutely love. Second, how Pi was distributed. It was based on your contributions and engagement, not on who had the most money to buy in. And third, that whole closed network phase, that was intentional, to force the creation of a real internal economy, to prove its utility before it ever hit a public market. Every single one of these was a building block for a system that could stand up to regulatory scrutiny. This is a much better way to think about all this. Regulation isn't the enemy of crypto. It's more like a filter. It's designed to weed out the scams and the sketchy projects and select for the ones that are built on transparency and accountability. In that kind of environment, having a foundation of compliance isn't just a nice to have, it's your ticket to the game. All right, now let's tackle the elephant in the room. The biggest criticism you always hear about Pi, right? The slow start, the fact that it doesn't have a public price yet. But what if that wasn't a weakness at all? What if it was a very deliberate, very strategic plan to build something that could actually last, instead of just another hype bubble? So, here's how the strategy unfolds, in 3 simple steps. First, fair distribution. They used a simple mobile app, not some complicated mining rig, so they could get the currency into the hands of millions of people all over the world. Step 2, build an internal economy. By keeping the network enclosed, it forced the community to start building real apps and creating real uses for Pi. And only then, only after all that, comes step 3, integrating with the wider market, where its value will come from real adoption and use, not just speculative noise. And that right there is the core principle. In any sustainable financial system, value always follows utility. By building a functional economy before ever touching an open market, Pi Network is basically following a classic playbook for value creation. They're building the house on a solid foundation first. And just look at the result of building that foundation. This is not some small niche group of tech enthusiasts. We are talking about over 47 million verified participants. That number represents a global distribution network that most projects could only dream of, and it was all built through that patient, utility-first approach.
And this brings us to the people, to the community itself. In a world that rewards moving fast and breaking things, Pi did the exact opposite. It rewarded patience. It rewarded commitment. The people who got in early and, more importantly, stuck around, they aren't just users. They're a fundamental asset of the entire network.
If you look back through history, you see this pattern in every major financial shift. The early builders, the believers, the ones who jump in when it's all still uncertain, they're the ones who are rewarded for their patience. The people who come in late, the ones who wait for everything to be guaranteed and safe, they almost always end up paying a premium. Pi's early community took a long-term bet, and that discipline is now looking like it could be a massive advantage. So let's just zoom out for a second and look at the real end game here. Pi isn't trying to be some rebel project that burns down the whole financial system. It's building a foundational piece of infrastructure, something designed to work with the regulated system, not against it. And you can see that long-term vision laid out right here. The goal is to connect with existing financial systems, to align with lawmakers, not pick fights with them, and to build real, tangible infrastructure, not just sell a dream. It's a vision where being slow suddenly starts to look incredibly smart and strategic. And when you lay it all out on a timeline like this, the whole strategy just clicks into place. The past was all about distribution, building that enormous global community. The present is all about readiness, getting the tech and the compliance frameworks completely buttoned up. And the future? That's all about integration, connecting this powerful, ready-made network to the broader, regulated global economy. So we'll end on this thought. Pi Network is a long-term bet. It's a bet on a future where digital currency and regulation don't just clash, they coexist. It's a whole financial architecture built specifically for that world. And, as history shows us time and time again, when these huge shifts finally happen, it's usually not the loudest ones in the room who win. It's the ones who were quietly and diligently preparing all along.